Look, guys, CNN is ISIS, I'm right there with you. CNN is fake news, I'm right there with you. CNN is always pushing a narrative that is sympathetic and apologetic to Islam. I totally agree with you. So you guys have probably seen it already. Mega viral video showing CNN, quote, stage managing a Muslim protest. People are freaking out, and the original person who put the tweet out, who recorded the video, the caption he wrote was CNN creating the narrative. And as you can see here, it's got about 12,000 retweets. My only question is, if the group of Muslim protesters with their signs and their flowers were already there before CNN showed up, meaning the protesters were just going out doing a protest. If they were already there before CNN showed up, then CNN didn't really have to create a narrative. The narrative that CNN was pushing in their story was that not all Muslims support terrorists, because those were the signs that these Muslims were holding. That, you know, it's bad what happened, and signs like ISIS is not Islam. So that was the narrative, but CNN didn't create the narrative. If the protesters were already there before CNN showed up, CNN didn't create the narrative. The narrative was already there. Sure, they may have told them, okay, move over here, get into this shot, scrunch up together, but that's not really creating a narrative, because the narrative was already there. So I think this is definitely an example of what's called stage managing. It's definitely an example of a news network repositioning protesters to get a good shot. But I mean, if that's what you're accusing CNN of doing, then this is a drop in the bucket. This is almost inconsequential, because 95% of the narrative was there before CNN told them get into the shot and put the flowers on the floor. There were already Muslims there protesting terrorists with flowers and signs. Now again, is it possible that CNN provided the signs to the protesters and provided the flowers and paid actors to pretend that they're Muslims protesting? I'm not going to say it's impossible, but this video is essentially the only evidence. It's the primary evidence they have that CNN, to justify the headline, CNN staged fake news. This video has no proof that CNN supplied these people with the signs, suggesting that these people are not even real protesters. So you don't have to create the narrative, as the original tweet says. The narrative was already there. And CNN maybe did a tiny touch-up, repositioning them in the shot, asking them to put the flowers on the floor. But really, how much more to the narrative are they adding when the protesters presumably may have already been there with their signs and their flowers? I think that this is being blown out of proportion. And I think suggesting that they created the narrative fails to consider that this is actually sort of standard operating procedures in mainstream media today. That's right, it's actually not uncommon for them, for mainstream media, if they want to get a good shot. This is just what happens when media companies are competing against each other. You have to create truly engaging news reports. And getting a good shot, having protesters in the background, that's just normal. You want protests? I mean, it happens all the time in media reporting. Mainstream media reporting. And my point is that this is being blown out of proportion. Am I saying CNN is great and we can trust everything they do? Of course not. All right? It was clear that they had a narrative in the sense that CNN wanted to push the not all Muslims are terrorists. Of course CNN, that's all they do is try to sympathize for Islam. Of course, I know this. But some headlines are suggesting that they paid them and they're actors. Okay? Or that they did some incredible major deception. What major deception? There were already people with signs there, presumably. There's no evidence proving that they were paid protesters. And that's my point. I'm not saying it's impossible, what people are suggesting. I'm saying that this viral tweet doesn't really prove shit. And I'm actually kind of stunned by the level of groupthink that people are just jumping on this hype bandwagon. It's funny, some moron was like, man, you're just trying to sell t-shirts. You're just talking about this because you want to sell t-shirts. Someone told me this on Twitter. It's like, oh yeah, guess what? 95% of my followers on Twitter disagreed with me, my stance on this subject. So that's a genius marketing strategy to sell t-shirts. Piss off your followers. Yeah, genius marketing. Piss off 95% of your followers to sell t-shirts. Yeah, because nothing prompts people to want to give you money and buy a t-shirt like pissing them off. Okay, bro. Okay. Thank you guys for watching.